Now that's interesting. This podcast is about the Georgia Tech Sam Nunn School of International Affairs. Its graduates, their careers, and how the Nunn School has helped to shape their future. Take a listen. Welcome back to Now That's Interesting. I'm Stephanie Jackson.
And I'm Sydney Pwanka.
Today, our guest is Ahmet Korkaya. And Ahmet is a fall 2020 degree candidate who will be graduating with a biomedical engineering degree and a minor in international affairs from the Nunn School.
And at Georgia Tech, Ahmet has been part of the Student Advisory Board, the American Red Cross Club, the Muslim Students Association, and the Model Arab League. In addition, Ahmet has been a peer lead undergraduate study leader at the Center for Academic Success at Georgia Tech, a peer instructor at the Hive at Georgia Tech, an undergraduate researcher at the Biointerface Transnational Nano Engineering Group, and has studied abroad at the American University in Cairo.
So, Ahmed, welcome to the podcast.
That was an incredible introduction. I feel very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Great. We're glad you're here. You've had many varied experiences while a student here at Georgia Tech. So we want to ask you about some of them shortly. Mm-hmm. But to begin, though, so you're majoring in biomedical engineering. Mm-hmm. So tell us, what led you to pursue a minor in international affairs?
Well, so it's funny because I did this kind of come around realization after entering college about my own life experiences. And I am Turkish born, and then I lived 4 years of my early life in India, where then I moved to Michigan in the US, and then I moved down to Georgia for my last 3 years of high school, after which obviously I started college. And so I've moved around a lot, and I've definitely experienced a lot of the world. And I realized that coming into college, I'm going to experience more because we're going to have an international body. We have a large international student body. And so I was excited to take engineering courses with them. And then fall 2018, I took this class called The World Today. And it's taught by Vincent Pedicino, one of my favorite professors at Georgia Tech. And I did not realize that I could actually add to my engineering degree a minor that literally is called international affairs, something that I've been passionate about for quite some time. Not just politics, not just language, but actually culture and learning about other people and learning about societies and the differences, because that's honestly one of my favorite things is to talk to people about how different they are from me. And so I realized this minor was basically meant for me. And I won't lie, sometimes I think back and wonder whether I would start over as a full-on major.
Oh, that's exciting to hear. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about it. I know you're graduating, but if you think about we also have graduate programs. We can talk off the podcast about that if you consider it. So tell us a little bit more or less some details about some of the classes you've taken as an INTA minor.
Okay, so I've taken my first experience was The World Today, and that actually just counted as a social science, I'm pretty sure. But for my minor, I've taken courses specifically aiming at Latin America or the global South in general with Dr. Bowman. I've taken 3 classes with Dr. Kirk Bowman, one of my absolute favorite professors I've ever had. He teaches a class that's very dear to my heart because of my specific interest in soccer. He teaches soccer and global politics. I recommend that to anybody.
Yes, he does.
And then I've taken with Dr. Rubin a class that Sydney knows well, Government and Politics of Society in the Middle East. And that also I found a connection to that course because I am from the Middle East. I'm from Turkey. And so that class was very interesting to learn about the other countries in the region, of course, but also about Turkey. Honestly, I learned some things about my own country. And then what else? And now this fall, I'm taking my last course, comparative politics, again with Dr. Bowman, which wasn't planned. I don't think he was planning on teaching that, but given the global climate, that's what ended up happening, and I'm more than happy. Yeah, and these classes. I have a friend, some that you may know, named Mimi Akuro. She was actually right before me a graduate for with biomedical engineering degree and an INTA minor. And she was part of the inspiration for pursuing this minor for myself. And she found herself contacting all of her INTA professors after graduation more than she contacts her BME professors.
Wow. Wow. That's quite the testimony to how approachable our professors are, but also how important the work that they're doing, the research and what they're teaching resonates. That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome. That's so cool that you've had such a great experience with all of that. So now shifting to a little bit of what you participated in while at Georgia Tech. So Ahmed, you were part of the Model Arab League, or you are a part of the Model Arab League at Georgia Tech. So what exactly is the Model Arab League?
So as I'm sure many of those who listen to this podcast know about the Model UN, Model United Nations, and this is a very similar concept, but it is geared towards the Arab League, which is a current international organization of all of the Arab countries, namely centered on language speaking. But anyway, so the idea behind it is gathering together and kind of acting as if you can portray the interests of each country, their global interests, of course, mainly, and then how that relates to other surrounding countries within the Arab League, and also how the Arab League can make resolutions and see if this can lead to solutions to problems that arise within these countries. And I mean, it's very much like Model United Nations, and in fact, the person who created the Arab League, at least spearheaded the creation of it, he was very involved with Model UN as well. So it's very much like Model United Nations.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great that you've been able to get involved in that organization. And so for students who are thinking about getting involved in organizations such as Model Arab League or other organizations on campus, what advice would you give them for getting involved in those organizations? Absolutely
get involved with what interests you right off the bat. Like anything you see that makes you look again. Say you're, what do they call it during orientation, or maybe right after orientation, the club fair, the organization fair? That's what it's called, org fair, right?
Yeah.
So if you're walking around that with friends or by yourself, whatever, and you see anything that you honestly take the time to read, get involved with that, the person that they have as a representative, talk to them, give them your email, get some information from them, and really think about your own experiences. And it should be a good balance of what you're interested in and also what you think your quality and your skills can somewhat help or push forward, So I was also involved with Red Cross Club, American Red Cross Club at JT a year ago for just over a year. And I'm very involved with that just because I was involved with that in high school. And it's just something that, I've been good at organizing events that are in that service, public service domain. And so that an aspect of that was I was good at it, but I was also, it interests me. So that's why I got involved. And I definitely recommend everybody to, as Stephanie was mentioning earlier, broaden and get some breadth in your experiences while at Georgia Tech. And so I recommend getting involved with not too many organizations, but the ones that definitely interest you.
Right. So let's talk about another interest of yours. So this biointerface transnational nanoengineering group. So transnational leads me to think there might be some international collaboration involved. Yeah. But you were an undergraduate researcher there. So tell us, what is your research focus about?
So that group is quite a diverse group. It's the PI, the principal investigator, the main professor of that group. His name is Dr. Woon Hong Yo. He's a very great guy, and he's a Korean, and he did his education in Korea and then also in America. And he has been leading this group that focuses on implantable or on the skin healthcare oriented devices, right? So my specific contribution to that group has to deal with implantable pressure sensors or flow sensors. And so the best example I can give is if you hear about people who have atherosclerosis or basically just thickening of their veins or like plaque buildup because of something like high blood pressure, right? And so these sensors are put in to track how flow is going through and what pressures there are. And if there's a drop, it's actually a Bluetooth enabled so that doctors can monitor it without being any more invasive than the initial implant. And yeah, and so it's not a burden to the body because the material is biomaterial and it's not dangerous or anything, nothing more than anything else you do regularly. And so that's what I worked on while there. And we worked on basically biosensors is what we would call them. And the transnational aspect of it is, or mainly we're not focused to the US or anything. We're focused to human needs and like human healthcare needs and what the medical devices can assist those. And so yeah, but the key term is nanoengineering because the tech world is getting smaller and smaller as we know, and so that's the key focus.
Yeah. So how did you find that opportunity?
Honestly, so I was asking friends who were older than I. They were doing some incredible research. And I was very intrigued by how they got involved. Same as you just asked me that question. I asked them the exact same question. And they told me they just reached out. They just reached out to anybody who they wanted to learn more from. And that's honestly what these professors want. They literally, their profession is to teach. Their profession is to spread information, spread this wealth of information. And at an institute like Georgia Tech, we know we have these professors here. And so I actually, the summer of 2018, before I was starting my third year, I made myself a list of BME/ME professors who were doing research that I was interested in. And I got their contact information and I did a rundown of what their lab website entails and what they do. And I pointed out things that I specifically was interested in and also things that I specifically have experience in, things that I can help with. Because I've done cancer research when I was in high school, just simple like helping in a wet lab. And it's not very, I didn't need to know too much getting into that, but that definitely led me to be interested in my list. There was a few professors who were working on diseases, like human diseases and potential research with that. And so Dr. Yo was on the top of my list, and I am very lucky that he was very welcoming. And he let me in right away. He it's actually funny. He emailed me about a week after I emailed him. I had already thought that it was over. He wasn't going to talk to me ever. He said, sorry, I was in Korea. And I'm just now reading this. I would love to talk to you in person and let's get you in. And for me, I thought that meant an interview. I was so prepared. I had everything down. I had my resume printed out. I had notes. I walk in, he sits me down, we chat for a little bit. He says, when can you start? And and I had no idea. Awesome. I was like, right now, if you want me to.
Right, you're floored. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was very welcoming. He's very welcoming to undergraduate students who are interested in what he does. And I think that's very consistent with many professors. And so give it a shot. Just look them up, see what interests you. Just as the organizations, getting involved with research is almost a given at Georgia Tech. Like, I don't know if I can name a friend who's not involved in some form of research. And so I definitely tell all my friends. I've encouraged so many of my friends to get involved with research after I have, and it's just a chain, a ripple effect. Everybody finds someone they know that encourages them to find somebody to work with, and I mean it's going to happen at our school.
So that's the theme I've heard you mention just over the course of your conversation. Of course, reaching out to the faculty and them being open, but also reaching out to your peers
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the work that they're doing and using that as inspiration. That's really great to hear. I have one follow-up question to that. In addition to reaching out to the faculty or following some of the work that your peers are doing, are there any other tips, like courses people should take or anything else students should do to prepare themselves for research opportunities?
Yes, there are a few research-oriented courses in terms of writing.
Mm-hmm.
I had the pleasure of having a friend who took that course, and I was able to learn from them. And this was like my first and second years, and so I didn't. My family comes from a very heavy research-oriented background. My father is a PhD, and he does his own cancer research, and so it comes natural to me. But I know it doesn't come natural to everyone, which is completely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, though, we're at an institution like Georgia Tech for a reason, right? We're all outstanding students. We all have motivation, and so I would suggest like looking through your own major's curriculum, whether you're an INTA major or something else, and there are so many options for every major in terms of what we call them in BME are breadth and depth electives, and those can definitely help you orient yourself towards interests that can lead you in the future, right? And so because everybody has to take certain set of courses, but then when there's options, that's when you go towards what interests you. And so I definitely suggest taking a look at those and really going through them. And we'll know some people who just randomly pick whatever fits their schedule, and that's also fine. But there's an opportunity there to be grasped, and I would suggest grasping that. And also in the INTA department, the classes that I've taken have all been interests of mine, whether it be Latin America or the Global South or the Middle East. They actually, I was very close to doing a vertically integrated project with Dr. Bowman in the fall of 2018, simply because I took a class of his, or fall of 2019, sorry. I highly, like, these professors are not just professors, right? They're not just teachers. They're also doing research. So get involved with your professor more. I also suggest that for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And so in addition to the research that you did while at Georgia Tech, you also studied abroad at American University in Cairo, correct? Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, first off, it was this past spring, so the pandemic did hit about 2.5 months in. And yeah, I was in Egypt, and the situation wasn't dire or anything, but it was very unexpected, I guess you could say. But I'll be frank, everything went smoothly. There was no, like, we were not scared of anything going on. The school took great care of us. And the people there were also very welcoming, like the people that worked in the buildings that we were all quarantining in and stuff. They treated us well. But prior to that, the 2.5 months I had before the pandemic were also amazing. And being among INTA students, INTA professors, the INTA department in general, 100% influenced me in my decision to study abroad before graduating. And I really suggest it to everyone that I know that has the means to go abroad, of course. So the experience was great. I learned Arabic. I had known a little bit of Arabic before going, but I definitely solidified at least the Egyptian dialect, which was great. The professors at that institution are also wonderful. They really were excited for our cohort of international students because we were the largest in 10 years. And
and so
that definitely has to do with the political climate. which has
Right.
since eased, and that allowed Georgia Tech to open their exchange program. I believe I was the first in 9 years to go, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
that program had closed
Wow.
down after the Egyptian Spring, however many
Yes.
years ago it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's finally back. It's back open again. Great.
Yes. I've already identified some of my younger peers who I'm gonna recommend go on the same exact exchange.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but how did you see some of your INTA coursework or what you've learned throughout the INTA minor overlap with your studies while
Oh
in
yeah.
Cairo?
So I actually took two INTA related courses in Cairo. So one of them
Mm-hmm.
was a great. It was actually the intro to international theories that I happened to take a little bit later than everyone else, but it was
Mhm.
really wonderful because the professor actually was a practicing international lawyer and a PhD
Wow.
professor teaching international theories and numerous other courses. And she actually works on Palestine-Israeli relations and Palestinian citizens looking to gain Israeli citizenship.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was an incredible experience, the course, but also getting to talk to her outside of that. And if I didn't have an INTA minor, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for that. um,
Yeah.
and another course I took was on Judaism and modern versus historical Judaism and the differences and how it's evolved and stuff. That was also very wonderful. That teacher was actually an American professor who has been living in the U.S. in Cairo for the past 20 years. That was a wonderful experience as well. But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of studies, the INTA minor definitely prepped me. So before you go abroad through Georgia Tech, you need to go through these ethics and empathy training and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Between my own experiences and what I learned through the INTA minor and like understanding of different societies and whether it be governmental politics or just the society in general, um, I was very well prepared as opposed to other students.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that was a fun little I don't know, I guess bypass.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to hear that.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question now
Hmm.
about what is next for you. Since you're graduating in December, have you given thoughts about what your next steps might be in terms of a career?
Yes and no. So I am at a crossroads of what I want to do with the rest of my life. I mean, sort of.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be too dramatic about it. I know where I'm leading towards, and that's healthcare, and whether that be as an engineer
Mm-hmm.
or as a actual healthcare worker, which I'm somewhat leaning towards more. After my experience in the BME department and of course the INTA department, uh, I
Mm-hmm.
think I want to lean towards medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm considering right
Mm-hmm.
now. But in terms of what I've gained from BME and INTA is I definitely, and also my study abroad, the world is a large place, and I'm looking at international organizations if I'm looking for an actual engineering job, because I wouldn't go to med school right away. Obviously, I'm graduating in the fall, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't know of any medical schools that accept students in January. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'll be looking for a job. I am actively looking for a not. I do have an opportunity to go
Mm-hmm.
to a school in Turkey for a master's in biomedical engineering with a concentration on
Mm-hmm.
just a certain project that I've communicated with the professor there. But yeah, so moving forward, I think one takeaway from my experience at Georgia Tech, BME, and INTA combined is I'm not going to center myself on the U.S. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear that this minor has certainly influenced you and expanded your, like you said, your thought process about what your options might be. That's good
Hmm.
to hear. And also, it's thinking of graduate school or something like that, doing something abroad, there are also lots of scholarships, and I can talk to you a little bit more about that. Some things that you might not have considered if you're thinking about graduate school abroad. That's just another service as an INTA minor that we provide.
Well, I'd love to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good luck in the future with all of that. That'll be super, super great to hear about what all you're able to do in your future academic or professional career. And so, to a little bit of a wrap up, but what advice do you have for students who are thinking of pursuing a minor in international affairs in the future?
Yes, I absolutely advise anybody who even has any inkling towards doing an INTA minor, absolutely do it. And of course, the number one thing that I have to suggest, because this is what I did, I took an INTA course before starting an INTA minor. And the course I took was, some INTA students might say, not with the most welcoming professor, but in my opinion, it was a great experience with Vincent Pedicino, and the class really opened up my mind to, well, first of all, it also just informed me that there was an INTA minor. I hadn't known. I had no idea that there was an INTA minor. I'm not saying I would have done it right away, but the course helped with that. And then obviously what I learned in that. But also, one other thing I'd suggest is talking to other INTA minors. I mentioned Mimi Kuro. She was a BME major and an INTA minor, same as me, just a year older than me. And so learning from her and seeing how she experienced the combination of BME and INTA really definitely influenced me. And so I suggest anybody who's doing a different major to find somebody who's doing an INTA minor with their same major, and that would be, a great conversation to be had.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Definitely reach out to people who have done similar things to what you're doing. Yeah. I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time today, Ahmet. This has been a really insightful conversation. And I think I can speak for Sydney when I say we are both glad to hear that the INTA minor had been so helpful in your academic and your career goals. And so we cannot wait to hear more about your successes. And we hope that you're staying healthy, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I definitely enjoyed the conversation, and I also can't wait to see who else is on this podcast, because it's definitely very interesting to me.
Good. Well, make sure. Thank you for encouraging others to listen. We hope that you'll enjoy it.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
This podcast is produced by the Sam Nunn School of International Affairs at Georgia Tech, developing policymakers for the 21st century. Music is Afternoon Nap by Ghost Rifter Official, used under a Creative Commons Attribution, Share Alike 3.0, unported license.